A young clone cadet stands before a hologram of Emperor Palpatine, Danger Dar. Microscene 1. Indoctrination. Instructor stands in front of the classroom, his voice stern and authoritative. I clear my throat, drawing the attention of the dozen clones. Today, we learn the true meaning of Imperial loyalty. In the Imperial education and doctrine system, compliance begins with unquestioning obedience to authority. Microscene 2. A cadet named Tarkin steps forward nervously. Tarkin's eyes dart between me and the Emperor hologram. His expression a mix of fear and confusion. Sir, what does that mean? I point to the holographic image, emphasizing each word with a firm gesture. You'll never question orders from an officer or Imperial authority. He will do what is commanded without hesitation. Tarkin's shoulders slump slightly, his gaze dropping as if he understands. The room, is silent. All silent. But how long can blind obedience sustain the Empire? When the truth is revealed, the camera pans over rows of identical desks, each with a holographic terminal displaying the same message. The instructor's voice echoes softly, explaining the principles of Imperial compliance through repetition and discipline. A student named Jax fidgets in his seat, adjusting his tunic as he glances at the clock. The camera zooms in on him, tapping a finger against his temple, a look of frustration masking his loyalty. The instructor emphasizes, each repetition makes these actions instinctual. Every day you will perform these exercises until compliance is not just your duty, but your instinct. Jax's eyes dart to a nearby monitor, showing a squad executing a flawless formation drill. He sighs, knowing he must follow suit tomorrow if he wants to avoid further scrutiny. The instructor continues. Failure to comply will result in re-evaluation and reinforcement. Jax shifts uncomfortably, wondering how many more days of this he can endure before breaking. Tarkin shifts uncomfortably, under the instructor's scrutinizing gaze. Jax stands nearby, his face a mask of practiced composure as he waits for his turn to perform. Jax, the instructor calls out, you will be evaluated tomorrow. The rule is clear. Daily repetition ensures compliance becomes instinctual. Jax nods, but inside a spark of defiance ignites. He had hoped today would go unnoticed. Now, every move will be watched more closely. Tarkin watches Jax, with a mixture of envy and unease. The instructor turns to Tarkin, addressing him directly. Remember, the Emperor's vision is our path. Wait. Jax stiffens, his heart pounding as he steps forward, knowing the stakes are higher now. Clone Cadet Tarkin stands rigidly as Jax fidgets beside him. The hologram of Emperor Palpatine flickers to life, his eyes piercing through the room. Daily repetition is key to ensuring compliance. The instructor's voice booms across the classroom. Echoing in Tarkin's mind, Jax glances at Tarkin, a silent plea for support. But Tarkin can't bear. Tarkin clenches his fists, remembering his own struggles. He can't afford to falter. The Emperor's vision depends on it. But as he watches Jax struggle, Tarkin feels a twist of empathy. Could this be where his unease stems from? The class continues, but Tarkin's thoughts circle back to tomorrow. What if Jax does break? The consequences could ripple through the entire academy. Aisha, out to not get on Tarkin, and Magnatan, Ardendi Kyle. Dismissed, the instructor commands, breaking Tarkin's reverie. As he exits, Tarkin notices Jax staring at him with a mixture of gratitude and sorrow. Will Jax's failure expose cracks in their training regimen? Or will it be the catalyst for rebellion? The truth about the Empire, its true nature, may already be germinating within. Holographic Emperor. Palpatine looms large as Tarkin's reflection in the classroom mirror. The instructor, A stern-faced officer named Draven scrutinizes every movement. The rule today is clear. Repetition until instinct. Jax fumbles. His lightsaber drills, drawing Dravenar's attention. Thank you. I don't know which singer. I don't. As Jax struggles, Tarkin watches, empathy and tension clenching his chest. If Jax fails tomorrow's evaluation, the consequences could be reassignment or worse. Draven calls out, "Aye, Cadet Jax, let us try this again." "Let us try, then Miguel, and I did." "Ah." The room fills with the harsh sound of his voice, echoing off the cold walls. Tarkin's heart pounds as he sees Draven moving closer to Jax, starting to. What if Jax's failure affects him too? Will obedience or rebellion define their futures? Draven's voice booms through the classroom as he oversees Tarkin and Jax in their lightsaber drills. The cold metal of the weapon hums in Tarkin's grip, his movements precise but tense. Repetition until instinct ensures compliance. Failure is unacceptable. Jax falters mid-slash, his blade clashing with Tarkin's just enough to jar his arm. Dravenar's eyes narrow, and he moves closer, the threat palpable in his stare. Jax's stumble could mean severe reevaluation, or worse, for both him and Tarkin. Tarkin clenches his jaw, a mixture of anxiety and resolve, coursing through him as he pushes Jax back to perfect form. The stakes are higher now. One misstep could unravel their carefully constructed facade. The double-bladed saber hummed with an eerie, unblinking light as Draven circled Tarkin and Jax. Their forms were fluid, but not yet perfect. Repetition, until instinct ensures compliance. Tarkin's blade grazed Jax's arm, a mistake that earned him a hard look from Draven. Jax flinched, his concentration breaking for an instant. Dravenar's voice cut through the air like a lash. One more time. Jax gritted his teeth and began again. But this time he faltered halfway through the routine. The blade hesitated, then swung off course, striking Tarkin's leg with a dull thud. Tarkin cried out in surprise. Severe penalties for failure. Dravenar's eyes narrowed. Jax, on your knees. Jax dropped to his haunches, the sound of metal scraping against the training mat echoing in the room. Draven approached, his presence heavy and oppressive. "Why did you hesitate?" Tarkin winced, but said nothing. Obedience replaces critical thought. Dravenar's hand tightened around Jax's shoulder, a bone-crushing grip. "This is why we train. To ensure loyalty, not judgment." Jax nodded, head bowed, his breath shallow and quick. "And you will have no such luxury next time," Draven warned. Draven's shadow looms over Jax as he adjusts his grip on the saber. Dravenar's voice booms. "Our obedience replaces critical thought. Darn." He lunges at Tarkin, who sidesteps with practiced ease, only to find himself cornered by Jax. The younger recruit hesitates, his blade wavering. If hesitation costs a life, so will failure in training. Draven seizes Jax's wrist and hurls him against the wall, leaving a crimson mark on the stone. Compliance is not optional, he growls, as Jax struggles to his feet. Will Tarkin's loyalty hold under such relentless pressure? Draven's harsh voice echoes as Jax grits his teeth, his saber whirling in a dizzying pattern. Draven's eyes narrow at Tarkin's hesitant parry. "Loyalty is not about hesitation," he snarls, tightening the grip on Tarkin's wrist with a force-enhanced strength that sends Jax stumbling back. "In this dojo, you learn to follow orders without question." Jax cringes under Draven's gaze, his saber clattering to the floor as he kneels in submission. "Failure is not an option," Draven echoes ominously before turning his attention to Tarkin. "You'll face their judgment alone next time," Draven growls, his voice dripping with malice. The double-bladed saber illuminates once more, initiating another set of exercises. Will Jax's shame compel him to push harder, or will it break his spirit? Draven's crimson saber hummed with an eerie, insistent pulse as he circled Jax Datao. "Do not falter," Draven hissed, his voice dripping with menace. Jax's breath came in short gasps, his heart pounding as he tried to mimic Tarkin's precise form. Tarkin, eyes locked on the instructor, barely held back a wince at the near missile. His saber grazed Jax's blade, sending sparks flying. Again Draven commanded, voice cold and unyielding. Jax gritted his teeth, forcing himself to mirror every movement flawlessly. The rule of obedience replaced critical thought was drilled into him with each repetition. He could feel the weight of Dravenot's gaze, heavy and unrelenting. Perfect, Draven finally acknowledged, though there was no warmth in his tone. But remembering, failure is not an option. Tarkin shifted uncomfortably, his loyalty to Jax tested by the relentless training. Each mistake cost him a step closer to Draven's wrath. The dojo house walls seemed to close in as the tension mounted. Draven moved on, before Jax could bask in any false sense of achievement. Jax's mind raced with the consequences of failure, loss of rank, perhaps even execution. He forced himself to ignore these thoughts and focus solely on perfecting his form. As they moved through their drills, Tarkin glanced at Jax, a flicker of understanding passing between them. The dojo's harsh discipline was pushing both towards a critical point where judgment and loyalty would be tested. What would happen if one of them failed? What would happen if one of them failed? Draven's crimson saber hummed menacingly as Jax and Tarkin repeated their drills, each mistake bringing them closer to failure. In this dojo, you learn to follow orders without question, Draven intoned, his voice a low growl. Jax's hesitation nearly caused Tarkin to fall into an ambush trap set by Draven's saber Darty. The young Padawan's face flushed with shame as he corrected himself, his movements now more precise, but still tinged with fear. Obedience replaces critical thought, Draven repeated, tightening his grip on Jax's shoulder. Tarkin, struggling to maintain his composure, hesitated once again. Draven's eyes narrowed, and a sharp jab from his double-bladed saber sent Tarkin stumbling backward. The apprentice's hands trembled as he righted himself, his breathing ragged. "Loyalty is your only defense," Draven growled, his tone laced with disdain. As Jax and Tarkin pressed on, their movements becoming increasingly mechanical, Draven's presence loomed over them like a dark cloud. The rule of obedience was paramount, but the looming threat of Draven's wrath hung heavy. If either faltered, the consequences could be dire. Draven shifted his focus to another student, leaving Jax and Tarkin alone for a moment. Their breathing synchronized as they both fought through their exhaustion, each movement more robotic than the last. "How long can you keep this up?" Jax whispered to Tarkin, his voice barely audible. The answer hung in the air between them, unspoken but clear, until Draven demanded it of them again. Jax's breath came in short gasps as he mimicked Tarkin's precise movements. Draven stood like a statue at their side, his eyes never leaving them. The rule of the saber is clear: precision and compliance. Tarkin stumbled, his balance disrupted by the sudden exertion. Draven's boot pressed harder against his leg, a silent command to correct himself. Jax felt the tightening in his stomach. Any misstep could end their training early. Jax forced his hand to steady Tarkin's saber arm, guiding it back into place. The tension between them was palpable, a shared understanding of the stakes. But Draven's stern gaze made Jax pause, forcing him to focus harder on maintaining perfect form. "How long can we hold together?" The drill continued, until their limbs ached and their minds began to blur from exhaustion. Draven's presence was an unyielding wall, his demands never easing, the uncertainty of how much longer they could endure. This regimen hung heavy in the air. Jax's blade whips through the air with unnatural speed, slicing Tarkin's lightsaber in half. Draven's eyes narrow, his lips curling into a cruel smile. Precision is not just about technique. It is about absolute submission to authority. Tarkin cradles his ruined saber, a look of sheer panic on his face. Draven strides over, his footsteps echoing ominously across the training grounds. Draven slams Tarkin's saber to the ground, with a loud crack, sending shards flying. Failure here is not an option, he growls, his voice low and menacing. You will learn. Tarkin's eyes dart nervously between Jax and Draven, his confidence shattered. Jax watches silently, feeling the weight of their shared struggle. Tarkin's failure intensifies Draven's scrutiny, leaving him vulnerable to further psychological pressure. Jax tightens his grip on his saber, the stakes growing clearer with each failed attempt. How much more can they endure before breaking? Jax's saber hums softly as he aligns his stance with Tarkin. Precision. Draven's voice echoes through the training grounds, a constant reminder of his unyielding rule. Each misstep is met with a swift correction, leaving Jax and Tarkin trembling under the weight of their failures. Tarkin stumbles, his saber clashing awkwardly against Draven's. Again, Draven commands, his eyes cold and unyielding. Tarkin's breath quickens as he tries to regain composure, but fear tightens his muscles. Jax watches, his own movements becoming more rigid with each repetition. Draven moves closer, his presence oppressive. Our submission is your only virtue, he growls, the harshness of his words cutting deep. Tarkin flinches, his resolve wavering as the weight of Draven's demands grows heavier. Jax steps forward, placing a reassuring hand on Tarkin's shoulder. We'll get through this, he whispers, but even his own voice sounds shaky. As they face another round of drills, Jax notices the increasing tension in their instructor's eyes. The air is thick with an impending revelation, and both boys can feel it creeping closer. What secret does Draven hold that threatens to break them both? Jax's saber flickers red as he swings it too wide. Draven snarls, precision. Draven snarls, you're no better than these recruits. Jax flinches, his movements stiffening further. Each misstep is a failure, each falter a betrayal of the Emperor's will. Tarkin stumbles, gasping as Draven's boot presses into his side. Focus! Tarkin's mind races, desperate for focus. The pressure forces a choked cry from Tarkin. Might I need to see? Jax watches, the weight of their shared struggle settling like a heavy blanket over him. Jax swings his lightsaber with forced precision, but Draven's eye catches an imperfection. Tarkin follows suit, their movements growing increasingly mechanical. Precision is paramount in Imperial indoctrination. Draven's voice cuts through the air like a blade. Again he commands, cold and unyielding. Jax and Tarkin repeat the motion, each strike more rigid than the last. Tarkin's hands tremble as he tries to match Jax's flawless form. The strain is palpable, his breaths coming in short, ragged gasps. Jax glances at him, concern etched on his face, but Draven's unblinking gaze deters any offer of help. Jax and Tarkin's sabers collide with a sharp clink, the sound echoing off the training grounds. Draven narrows his eyes, studying their synchronization. "Are perfectal," he finally says, his tone barely concealing his disgust. "Albeit not perfect enough." "What's so, but you know?" A realization hits Jax like a blow to the guitar. Dravenar's demands are escalating, and failure will have dire consequences. What hidden threat could be so urgent that even Draven's wrath is insufficient? The air thickens with tension as they prepare for their next practice session, an unseen challenge looming. Jack sighs, breath misting in the chill of the training ground. Jax and Tarkin stand facing Draven, their movements precise but unenthusiastic. Draven's eyes scan them critically before he speaks. The Imperial indoctrination process demands not just physical perfection, but also emotional detachment. Draven signals for a more rigorous simulation. Jax and Tarkin step into a life-sized holodeck setup, a battlefield reenactment. Suddenly, the scenario shifts. Jax's comlink crackles to life with an unexpected distress signal from their ally, Lyra. Will Jax's hesitation in responding to Lyra's call jeopardize their mission? Jax's heart races as he steps into the holosimulator. Jax and Tarkin stand before Draven, their breaths steady, but eyes wide. Dravenar's voice is a cold whisper in their minds. Show me no weakness. In this simulation, failure means immediate reevaluation. At last, over. The battlefield flickers to life. Jax's comlink buzzes with Lyra's urgent plea for backup. He hesitates, knowing Draven will judge his response. Will Jax's pause be the one that costs them both their mission? Fine. Jax's heart pounded as he faced Dravenar's cold, calculating gaze in the holosimulator. The battlefield flickered to life around them, Lyra's urgent distress call echoing clearly. Detachment, Draven commanded. Feel nothing but duty. I wish them were hitched down on the count of home. But eventually I step out in moment, and now no getting block and die. One ring of exploited. Jax's fingers tightened on his blaster as he scanned the virtual landscape, trying to keep a neutral expression. But the urgency in Lyra's voice gnawed at him. Nitro, Kornenka don't count. He hesitated, an unwelcome pang of concern for his ally. A red alert flashed across the screen. Arl, hostile forces approaching. When Mitterbraxin, when you starting, Draven barked. Listing I need to go in Largo, and would in Largo. Draven would soon test Jax off, resolved with an impossible choice. But this time, hesitation meant something different. If he didn't attack now, Lyra could be in grave danger. Rational, Karen Starkstone, listed out not nature guard. Target and neutralize. Tarkin ordered smoothly, moving to take point. Do you follow? No grow. New steno, honored at Inicio, going to action 13 path. Jax nodded grimly, his grip on the blaster easing slightly. He had to focus. But his mind raced. Should he prioritize Lyra or stick rigidly to protocol? A blast rang out in the simulator, confirming Dravenar's approval of Tarkin's action. Jax saw. Own hesitation cost them a simulated point. Revaluation, Draven declared, his voice devoid of emotion. Market Sender, how do you know, Khan? Twice, Jax and Tarkin stood silently as the simulation reset. The stakes were higher now. Every mistake counted double, and Lyra's distress call still echoed in their minds, unaddressed. What would it take to make the right choice? Jax's breath heavy. Sweat glistens under the holosimulator's harsh lights. Jax hesitates as Tarkin acts, swiftly, to repel an incoming assault. Draven's voice echoes in his ear. Obedience trumps hesitation. In every simulation, a single point of failure doubles the stakes. Twice over for critical moments like these. Lyra's distress call grows more urgent, but Jax cannot shake the feeling that Draven is testing him. He presses a button, opting to delay their response just slightly. In rain, where Nilker, Mount, Nabstead. Will this minor slip prove fatal, or merely another lesson in compliance. Jack sat, breath misted, his heart racing as he prepared for Draven's next order. Jax and Tarkin faced Draven in the holosimulator, their holographic opponents growing more aggressive. The simulation flickered to life, and a blaster bolt zipped past, narrowly missing them both. Each hesitation costs 2 points. Each decision must be decisive. Lyra's urgent distress call echoed through the simulator again. Jax paused, unsure of what to do, as the pressure mounted with each passing second. Jax, your indecision is costing us some. Dravenar's voice boomed over the comm. Tarkin spun and fired a burst at their virtual adversary, buying time as Jax scrambled to focus. "I am coming, Lyra," he shouted, but his words were drowned out by the simulator's whirring. Will Jax's hesitation finally break him under Draven's relentless training regimen? Jax's hand hovers over the holosimulator, controls, his breath visible in the chill of the training room. The holographic Tarkin materializes, his eyes narrowing into a stern glare. "Your indecision could mean failure, Jax," he intones, mimicking the exact tone of authority Jax fears. "Each hesitation now costs 3 points, sir. Failure is not an option, only perfection will suffice." Jax's fingers twitch as he forces himself to make a snap decision, but his action causes the simulated Tarkin to raise a virtual hand in a sharp warning gesture. The room up. Temperature drops and the air grows heavier with tension. The hologram shifts, revealing Lyra's face through a crack in the force field surrounding her cell. Her eyes are wide with fear as she whispers, "Jax, we need to hurry." Will Jaxar, growing fear of failure, lead him to make reckless decisions? Jax's hands tremble as he grapples with the holographic opponent's relentless assault. Jax's heart races as time seems to slow, every moment of indecision draining his strength. Failure in decision-making incurs a permanent decrease in operational efficiency. Scores. Tarkin barks a command. "Decide. We can't afford this indecision anymore." Jax's breath hitches as the stakes become clearer. Each wrong move could mean failing Lyra, and more importantly, jeopardizing their mission to extract the classified data from the rebel base. The holographic enemy intensifies its attack, forcing a choice. Jax's hesitation has now dropped his efficiency score by 10 points, significantly reducing his speed and accuracy in the simulator. Lyra's voice crackles through the speakers again, urgent and desperate. Lyra's voice urges through the speakers, "Jax, you must act now. The window is closing." What will Jax do? Will he finally overcome his hesitation or let Lyra down once more? Jax's knuckles turn white as he grips the holosimulator controls. Each hesitation lowers his efficiency score by 3 points. Tarkin Ajak's voice booms. "Ojung obedience overrides indecision. Under your radiance, override yield. Distress call grows more frantic. They're closing in on the base." Lyra's voice screams. "They're closing in on the base. We need you now." The holographic rebels circle tighter around Jaxar, virtual self, their energy blasts barely missing. Jax flinches, then smashes a command, but he tanks too late. His score plummets to 0. Tarkin snarls, "You failed the test, Jax." Lyra's voice crackles through again. "The base is compromised." Lyra's voice crackles through again. "Evacuate immediately." The holosimulator flashes red as Jax faces a new challenge. A rebel commander closing in with a blaster. Jax's fingers tremble as he reaches for the counter-attack button. "Now which invades your second counter-attack button?" The rebel commander looms larger in the holosimulator, his blaster rifle steady and aimed directly at Jax. Hesitation costs 3 points. Critical decisions must be made with decisive action. The simulation. Timer ticks down. Jax hesitates, his mind torn between the protocol of combat and the urgency of Lyra's distress call. Tarkin's voice cuts through the tension. "Make the right choice, or it will be your last." With a deep breath, Jax strikes back, the controls flashing green as he fires. The rebel commander falters momentarily, but his momentum carries him forward. Jax out. Efficiency score drops to critical level, sir. Only 2 points remain. Lyra's voice crackles in his helmet. I'm being overrun. Lyra's voice crackles in his helmet. We need you now. The rebel commander is too close. A direct hit would be fatal. I wish him, my own, a direct invest. Jax can either save the mission by sacrificing himself or fail and risk Lyra's life. His decision will determine not just his score, but whether he lives to see another day. Will Jax prioritize obedience over life? Jax's fingers tremble as he grips the holo-simulator controls. 3, 2, 1. The rebel commander looms closer, his blaster aimed directly at Tarkin and Lyra. Snap! I'm the Lightsaber. I show. Whoa! The sound of a disruptor. Blast rings out, interrupting the simulation. Jax spins around to see a clone trooper storming into the room, his rifle smoking from recent fire. Base compromised, the trooper shouts, his voice strained but decisive. Evacuate now. March is shown. Westera, then no go down. Tarkin's eyes narrow. Mr. Narrow, Night in the Court or Casteria. Stay focused, Jax. Make the right choice now. And I know, I should our own walk to. The instructor's voice cuts through Jax's mounting anxiety. Merchandad, and I mentioned you, on the west side. Jax hesitates for just a moment too long, losing one final critical point. The holo-simulator whirs to a halt, displaying his failing efficiency score. Tarkin's face darkens with disappointment as he reads the screen. Your hesitation has cost us, Tarkin says coldly. You failed another drill. Lyra, voice crackles over the comlink again. More urgent than ever, Jax. Lyra's voice screams over the comlink. Oh, Jax, you need to evacuate now. Aye, Jax, you need to evacuate now. The clone trooper stands firm, his rifle trained on the instructor. I'm recanting the car. Mind that the grenadier, that shame to the anti-battle state, and is our pursuit. Sir, this cadet is in danger, he states firmly. My channel don't count well. I would you return? My new piano, he states firmly. Tarkin glares at Jax, then nods reluctantly. Very well. Western Gender Tarkin. Ocean 0. Watching pair. Jax has a limited timer. He must evacuate with Lara. As they sprint from the room, the holo-simulator's lights flickering behind them, Jax can't shake the feeling that his failure here might mean real danger on the battlefield. Jax wonders if his next hesitation could have real-world consequences. Jax and Lyra sprint down the dimly lit corridor, their boots echoing against the metal floor. I watch them from my observation post, noting every move they make. Obey without question, I murmur to myself, a smile curling my lips. Jax suddenly veers left, pulling Lyra with him as alarms blare and red lights flash. Clone troopers pour into their path, weapons raised. Rebellion is met with swift and severe punishment. Jax's sudden movement alerts the troopers, giving them a clear target. They open fire just as the shuttle door begins to close. Lyra shoves Jax inside, just as the shuttle door closes and the first shots hit. The shuttle shudders violently, but it takes off despite the damage. I watch their escape with satisfaction, knowing they will be found and punished. But for now, they are alive a proof of what can happen when one dares to question Imperial authority. Jax glances over his shoulder, wondering what Tarkin's next move will be. Jax flips over the damaged shuttle's controls, Lyra's breath ragged beside him. The clone troopers storm through the base corridors, their blaster bolts echoing off metal walls. Any hesitation in following protocol is considered insubordination. Lyra slips on a loose panel and falls, causing Jax to lose precious seconds as he helps her up just as a squad of clones rounds the corner. They scramble, for cover behind a crate. Jax's heart pounds with dread as he scans the shuttle's systems, searching for any hint of repair or escape. What will Tarkin do when he finds out about this failure? Cold open line, 15 or 25 words. Jax's fingers fly over the shuttle controls as Lyra cradles her bleeding arm. Jax and Lyra rush through a dimly lit corridor, dodging clone troopers. Lyra pulls out a medical kit, applying pressure to her injured shoulder. Rule sentence, 1 rule protocol process stated. Failure in mission protocols results in immediate isolation for review. A burst of blaster fire forces them to duck behind a reinforced wall. Jax's breath hitches as he scans the area, his comlink crackling with clone trooper chatter. Jax ponders whether their next action could draw Tarkin's retribution again, as he helps repair the shuttle. Jax and Lyra sprint down the corridor, debris crunching under their boots. "Hold it steady," Lyra yells as Jax struggles to maintain control of the shuttle. The shuttle's hull cracks loudly, a warning light flickering ominously. Key rule: damage must be repaired immediately. Failure results in isolation. Lyra wrenches open a toolbox and starts fumbling with wires. "We need this fixed now," she demands, her voice tinged with desperation. Jax nods, focusing on keeping the shuttle steady as they both work frantically. A clone trooper rounds the corner, his blaster pointed at them. Lyra shoves Jax behind a bulkhead, just in time. The trooper fires. The blast ricochets off the metal, tearing a hole in their cover. "Move!" Jax whispers urgently, pushing Lyra towards the shuttle's rear compartment. As they scramble inside, the door slams shut and locks with an alarming hiss. The shuttle lurches violently as Jax tries to get it airborne. How long until Tarkin realizes we're gone? Lara asks, her voice barely above a whisper. Jax grits his teeth, concentrating on the controls. The answer hangs in the air, an unresolved threat that looms large. Jax wrenches a panel off the shuttle's hull, sparks flying. Jax and Lyra work in tandem, Lyra holding up an emergency repair tool, while Jax grapples with stubborn wiring. Sweat mixes with grease, their breaths heavy under the strain of constant trooper fire. Failure to maintain systems leads to immediate containment protocols. A sudden burst of blaster fire cracks through the hull, forcing them to dive for cover behind a console. The shuttle shudders and lurches as Lyra's repairs hold just long enough. "We need to get off this ship now," Jax whispers, his voice tense with urgency. I slice through another wire, my gloved fingers moving with practiced speed. Lyra's tool hums softly in my hand, its light reflecting off the metal panels as we work. The shuttle's emergency systems. Protocol dictates that failure to restore power will activate containment protocols within 5 minutes. I must fix this circuit or face immediate isolation. Lyra yanks a panel, her eyes wide with determination. "We need to reroute power from the auxiliary reactor," she says urgently. I nod and focus on the task at hand, my mind a blur of circuits and connections. The tool's beeper alerts me that I've made a mistake. My fingers have nicked a live wire. Sparks flare, singing my fingertips. "Orjo!" Lyra gasps, her hands flying to cover her mouth. "Jax!" she shouts, pulling me back from the damaged area. "You're bleeding." "Well, the shuttle's intercom crackles to life, static hissing in the background. Containment protocols initiated, a mechanical voice announces. All non-essential personnel will be sealed off within 2 minutes. Lyra's face pales as she checks my burns. We cannot. Wait for medical. Quickly. I snap, ignoring her concern. Well, I can actually catch it. Now and getting up. Handed a mouse in our hand. I can mount. We need to restore power, or they'll seal us in here. Nantacho, what a master, and here. I yank open a new panel and begin rewiring the circuitry, my fingers moving with practiced speed. Lyra works beside me, her movement steady despite the urgency. The shuttle's intercom crackles again. What a restaurant, without resigning the outcome, preceding not again. Containment protocols will begin in 1 minute, the voice warns. We work in silence, our breathing heavy as we race against time. The tool's beeper sounds a final warning. Yeah, only seconds left before the shuttle locks down. Lyra and I connect the last wires, the tool's light flickering with success. Power restored, I announce triumphantly. I still had an action data line. I'll doubt any cutbacks. The intercom falls silent. Silence fell over them as they braced for what was to come. What? Jax twisted the last screw into place, feeling Lyra, breath hitched beside him. Oh, almost there, he whispered. A sharp alarm blared over the intercom, and the ground rumbled ominously. Containment protocols are 3 minutes from activation. The voice echoed with cold certainty. Lyra grabbed a spare tool, her fingers trembling as she hurried to secure it in the cargo bay. We need to get everything operational, she said through clenched teeth. If we do not, they'll seal us off. Jax nodded grimly, knowing that once containment protocols activate, escape would be impossible without a key override code. Lyra didn't know. They finished securing the reactor just as the shuttle began to shudder violently. The lights flickered, and emergency protocols kicked in, locking down sections of the ship. We're under a running out of time, Jax said, his voice strained. Lyra's eyes scanned the console frantically. I cannot find the override code. We need to think fast. A door slammed shut behind them, cutting off another escape route. The airlock began to close, sealing them in with whatever secrets remained, hidden within the shuttle's depths. Jax, we have to find a way out, Lyra pleaded, her voice barely above a whisper as the airlock hissed shut. Their fate hung in the balance as time ticked away. But with containment protocols now active and critical systems failing, their options were rapidly narrowing. Would they be able to unlock the secrets before it was too late? Or were they already trapped in a lesson of obedience far more deadly than any warning bell could convey? Jax pushed Lyra aside as the airlock sealed, his heart pounding. We need to get out of here, he shouted over the whine of the closing door. Lyra fumbled with the console, her fingers flying across the controls. I can't find it, she said frantically. The override code is missing. Ah? Jax saw. Mind raced as the shuttle's systems began to shut down. Focus on the reactor, he barked. We need to keep it running if we're going to survive this. A red warning light flashed, and the auxiliary reactor flickered dangerously close to failing. Jax knew they were seconds away from containment, protocols activating in full force. With a desperate breath, Lyra slammed her hand down on a control panel. The reactor's lights stabilized, but the airlock door remained sealed tight. I can't override this, she cried. Jax grabbed Lyra and pulled her toward the emergency escape hatch. We need Tor. The shuttle shuddered violently as containment protocols engaged in full. Jax felt cold, metal press against his back, a reminder of their dire situation. The airlock door locked them inside. Where's the master control? Jax demanded, his voice desperate. If we can reach it, maybe we can all. The shuttle's interior lights dimmed to red, and a final ominous beep sounded. Jax and Lyra stood frozen, their fates now sealed within the metal shell of the failing ship. What will happen when the containment protocols finally activate? Jax twisted frantically, his fingers barely keeping pace with Lyra's, as she typed furiously at the console. The airlock hissed shut, sealing them inside. Override code, Jax shouted over the whine of failing systems. I can't find it. Lyra's eyes widened as the reactor lights flickered ominously. We need Tor. A red warning light blinked on, casting an eerie glow across their faces. Containment protocols engaged in 10 seconds. The intercom hissed. Their time was running out. What? The override code eluded both of them, and with it, their chance at escape. Panic clawed at Jaxar's throat as he realized they were trapped in a dying shuttle. Think, Jax! Lyra's voice cut through the chaos. There has to be another way. But what if there was not? No. What if this was just one more lesson? In obedience, sir, blindly following orders without question, the reactor groaned loudly, and Jaxar's heart sank as he saw the escape hatch lock into place with a final click. Jax, Lyra whispered, what do we do now? Now,